Okay, so next one. Mr. X owns a portfolio with the following characteristics: security A, security B, risk-free security, factor 1 sensitivity, factor 2 sensitivity. What do you understand by factor 1 sensitivity, factor 2 sensitivity? Sensitivity is a term we use for which measure? Sensitivity means it is beta. So beta for factor 1, beta for factor 2, and so on. Two factors in the problem. It is assumed that the security returns are generated by two-factor model. So two-factor, don't think about some model, about this arbitrage pricing theory. Two factors, factor 1, factor 2. If Mr. X has 1 lakh to invest and sells short 50,000 of security B and purchases 1 lakh 50,000 security A, what is the sensitivity of Mr. X portfolio to the two factors? Please observe. If he sells shorts, shorting the concept you don't know yet as of now. I will discuss during derivative stages, but as of now, please remember, like borrowing in shares. That is borrowing in shares. So you borrow the share, sells the money, get the amount. You don't borrow the money directly. You borrow the shares. And that shares you sell in the market and you get the money out of it. You get the money only, but slightly different process. How can you borrow in shares? Impact wise, why will you do it? What is the process of doing it? We discuss all these things when we go to derivative chapter. So as of now, just remember, shorting means borrowing in shares. So he has 1 lakh with his own money. By borrowing, he got 50,000 and together he has 1 lakh 50,000 which he invested in buying in security A. If Mr. X borrows 1 lakh at the risk-free rate and invests the amount he borrows along with the original amount of 1 lakh in security A and B in the same proportion as described in part 1, what is the sensitivity of the portfolio to the above factors? What is the portfolio expect return premium in 2 above? What is the expect return premium for factor 2? Okay, let's calculate all these things. First, what is portfolio to the what is sensitivity of the portfolio to the two factors? Please tell me how many portfolio beta we have to calculate. We have security A, security B, and we are mixing it in portfolio. So how many you have to calculate for portfolio? Two factors for factor 1 and for factor 2. But process is simple. We have to multiply beta with respective weights. So first we'll compute the weights. Okay. So for first part of the question, computation of portfolio beta. Portfolio beta. For two factors. So we get two answers. For two factors. For factor 1, factor 2. First we'll compute the weights. Okay, so for weight purpose, simple for tabular calculation, security, amount, weight. Security, we are having A, security B. Security A, I will write 1 lakh 50,000. You have invested 1 lakh 50. In B, you have borrowed the money. So minus 50,000. Borrowing in securities. Sell short. Borrowing in securities. So total 1 lakh. So what's going to be the weights? 1 lakh 50,000 divided by 1 lakh, which is 1.5. And minus 50,000 divided by 1 lakh, which is minus 0.5. Minus 0.5 because you're borrowing in securities, but total of the weights should always be 1. Then portfolio beta for factor 1. And then we'll calculate portfolio beta for factor 2. Simple formula only. That is beta 1 weight 1, beta 2 weight 2. Here also same formula. Portfolio beta, beta 1 weight 1 plus beta 2 weight 2. Weighted average. So what are the beta 1, beta 2 for? We are computing for security for factor 1. So look at only factor 1. Factor 1 means only look at first column. Only look at first row, sorry, first row. So betas are 0.8 into the weights and 1.5 into the weights. So 0.8 into 1.5 and 1.5 into minus 0.5. So minus 0.75 you get. So 1.2 minus 0.75. You get 0.45, is it? On simplification. 1.2 minus 0.75. Think 0.45. Okay. Similarly for second one. So second factor. 0.6 and 1.2 we have. So 0.6 multiplied by weight and 1.2 multiplied by weight. So 0.6 into 1.5 and 1.2 into minus 0.5. So 0.9 minus 0.6. I think you get 0.3. 0.30. So you get 0.45 as factor 1 beta for portfolio, 0.3 factor 2 beta for portfolio, 0.45 and 0.3. Okay, hope you got these numbers right. I'll go to second part of the problem. Okay, let's see what is required in second part of the problem. If Mr. X borrows 1 lakh and invests the amounts he borrows along with the original amount in the same proportion. So Mr. X borrowing 1 lakh and investment in same proportion. Now, can you tell me, when you invest 1 lakh in the same proportion in A and B, how much will you invest? In which ratio will you invest? They said in same proportion. So in which ratio and how much will you invest in each stocks? How much in A? How much in B? Earlier you had 1 lakh. Earlier you had 1 lakh. And 1 lakh, how did you invest? Minus 1,50,000 plus 50,000. 1,50,000 and minus 50,000. Now you got 1 more lakh. In the same proportion you invest. Means you invest in the ratio of 1.5 is to minus 0.5. Which means invest 1 lakh in the same proportion. So in the ratio of 1 is to minus 0.5. 1 in A, 1 lakh, and minus 0.5 in B. So when you have 1 lakh, you will invest in the ratio, not 1 in 1.5. 1.5 is to minus 0.5. 1.5, yes, not 1. 1.5 minus 0.5, right? We calculate this ratio. 1.5 minus 0.5. This we make use of it. 1.5 is to minus 0.5. So how do we invest? How much in A and how much in B? In A, we invest 1.5 into 1 lakh. So we invest 1,50,000 minus 0.5 into 1 lakh. So we basically short 50,000 minus 50,000. So what is your revised weights will be now? Revised weights. Security, amount, weights. Now, security, we are having security A, security B, and we are also having risk-free security now because you are borrowing. Risk-free security you are borrowing. This is the borrowing. This is the borrowing in money, not the borrowing in shares. Now security A, amount, how much amount? We had already invested 1,50,000. So 1,50,000 and 1,50,000. So that is going to be 3 lakh. We had 1 lakh initially and we invested 1,50,000 more. Similarly, B, we had shorted 50,000 and we further short 50,000. So total minus 50 and that becomes minus 1 lakh. And risk-free security you have borrowed, so that's also going to be 1 lakh. So total amount, if you see, it's going to be 1 lakh. You borrowed 1 lakh in money. So that's what I told, borrowing, risk-free security minus 1 lakh. Weights, how much will you calculate the weights? 3 lakh divided by 1 lakh, which is 3, minus 1 lakh divided by total 1 lakh, because your investment 1 lakh only, that is not change out your own money, that is same, minus 1 and minus 1 lakh by 1 lakh minus 1 and total weight 1. Then portfolio beta, portfolio beta, portfolio beta for factor 1, for factor 1, we look at the factor 1 values, which are 0.8, 1.5, 0. 0.8, 1.5, 0 multiplied by their weights, which we calculated here in this column, into 3 into minus 1 into minus 1. That's one anyway 0, so you can ignore that. So 0.8 into 0.3 is a 2.4, or 2.4 minus 1.5, 0.9 you get. Factor 2 beta, okay, what are the factor 2 betas? We have 0.6, 1.2 and 0. 0.6, 1.2, 0. So multiplied by 3, multiplied by minus 1, multiplied by minus 1. So that will give you 0.6. Shorting and investing in borrowed funds will lead to decrease in beta. Yes. Let's see what happens. Okay. Now, is it really decreasing? What do you think what is happening? Previously, we were having how much beta for factor 1? We are having 0.45 and now we are having, now we are getting 0.9. So previously we were getting 0.3 and now we are getting 0.6. So in both cases, the beta have been increased. Can you think why? What is the reason? What could be the impact, logical explanation for increase in beta? It's not the negative weights. It's because of the borrowing in money. It's because of the borrowing in money, which means earlier you are not borrowed in money. Borrowed in security, you forget. That is not an impact as of now. But when you borrow in money, that means I told you it's always a financial risk. That means previously it was unlevered beta because you are not borrowing in money, and now you are having borrowing in money. So when you borrow money, beta will increase. I told you, we discussed during the basic stage also, if you bring in risk-free investment out of your money, beta will reduce. On the other hand, if you borrow money and invest, your risk will increase, beta will increase. Beta levered versus unlevered beta. Let's quickly do a comparison of that. So in part 1, what we had was no borrowing in money, no borrowing in money. Therefore, it was unlevered beta. In the second, what we did, we had borrowing in money. Therefore, it is levered beta because you have taken financial risk. That's what APT theorem says. So if you want to bring new security, if you want to manage the risk, instead of borrowing money, you can do shorting in security. That will reduce the risk. Anyway, those things will not worry too much. Let's compare it here. Show the last slide. Not taken down still. 0.9.6. Okay, let me compare it now here. For the factor 1, I'll do first, then let me do for factor 2. Remember the formula? From the unlevered beta, how do you calculate the levered beta? Or levered beta, how do you calculate? Levered beta is given by unlevered beta into 1 plus debt by equity into 1 minus t. In this problem, no tax rate. So 1 minus t you ignore. So for factor 1, what was the unlevered beta we had? For the factor 1, previously we had beta of 0.45. Factor 1, 0.45 into 1 plus. Can you tell me what is the amount you borrowed in the second situation? In the sense, what is debt equity ratio? Can you tell me debt equity ratio, debt by equity in part 2, because you borrowed 1 lakh. How much is going to be your debt equity ratio, debt to equity? How much is debt? How much is equity? Debt to equity ratio 2:3, 0. I'm asking about in part 2, 0. I'm discussing so much because there is borrowing in part 2. I am talking about the amount of money borrowed, 1 lakh. You can't say no debt equity ratio. You borrowed 1 lakh. 1/3, 3:2. See how much different you are telling. One simple ratio, debt equity ratio. Answer is 1:1. Shorting is not borrowing. I'm only talking about borrowing in money. I'm specifically writing it here. I don't know what you people read. Borrowing in money. Borrowing in money. I only talking about borrowing in money as the impact on levered beta and unlevered beta. I'm not talking about borrowing in security at all. So when you have, in this case, how much money you had? In the first case, you had 1 lakh. Now in the second case, how much money you have? 1 lakh only. Your money is 1 lakh. That's why you see the total. In the first part of the question, you had 1 lakh, no borrowing in money. So debt equity ratio 0:1. 0 debt for 1 lakh amount. In the second case, your money is still 1 lakh. Your money is still 1 lakh. That is not getting changed. Your own money is 1 lakh and you borrowed 1 lakh. Borrowing in shares, you forget about it. Not required. So borrowing in money is 1 lakh. Your own money even in part 2 did not increase. That is 1 lakh only. So ratio is 1:1. So 1 by 1. So what do you get? 0.45 into 1 plus 2. That is 1 plus 1. That is 2. So 0.5 into 2. That becomes 0.90. I think that's what we got here, 0.9. Second case. How do you write levered beta for factor 2? It was 0.3 earlier into 1 plus 1 by 1. Debt equity ratio is same, 1:1. So here you get 0.60. That's what you got it here, 0.6. The impact of debt. So basically the impact of borrowing or impact of financial risk. Impact of borrowing money or the impact of financial risk. Okay, this is just for your reference, conceptual discussion, not required for exam. For exam, this what we call compute 0.9, 0.6, that much is sufficient. Okay, 2 more parts to the questions are there. Let's discuss that. Okay, what else they asked? What is the portfolio expected premium in 2 above? In 2. What is the portfolio expected return premium? Expected return premium means over and above risk-free rate. So we'll compute the expected return, we subtract the risk-free rate. So third part of the question, premium for portfolio. Okay, so expected return. Of portfolio, that is RP. 3 securities you are investing, because they are asking in 2 premium for fact portfolio in 2, right? In 2. So we will do weight in security A into return of security A plus weight in security B into return of security B plus weight in risk-free security into return of risk-free security. So weight we got it as 3 minus 1 minus 1. That is the weight we calculated here, 3 minus 1 minus 1. 3 minus 1 minus 1. What are the returns we have? 15, 20, 10. 15, 20, 10. So 45 minus 20 minus 10. I think 15. Premium is the portfolio return minus risk-free rate. Portfolio return 15, risk-free rate is 10. So premium is 5%. Over and above risk-free rate, 5%. Okay, Hope it is done. Last part of the question. Okay, so what they're asking, last part of the question, what is the expected return premium for factor 2? Only for factor 2, not for the portfolio. Premium for factor 2. So basically we have to calculate lambda 2, because lambda 2 means factor 2 premium. So we will use security A and security B. So what is the formula under APT formula? Return of a security is given by lambda 0 risk-free security plus lambda 1 for factor 1, beta 1 for factor 1 plus lambda 2 for factor 2, beta 2 for factor 2. Let's use this formula for security A and security B and we'll try to simplify. So for security A, what is return expected for security A? Return expected for security A is 15%. And sensitive factor 1, factor 2 is 0.8, 0.6 and risk-free security is 10%. So 15 expected return, 10 that is risk-free return, and lambda 1 we don't know, beta 1 0.8 for security A, and lambda 2 we don't know. For security A 0.8, 0.6, no, what's the confusion? We are calculating for security A. For security A, beta 1 is 0.8, beta 2 is 0.6. 0.8 and 0.6. Similarly, we do for security B also. For security B, it is 20% and beta 1, beta 2 are 1.5, 1.2. 20% and beta 1, beta 2 1.5, 1. Now we are not calculating anything for the portfolio here. We are calculating for the the pure factor premium based on the respective securities. So if you look at this equation, lambda 1, lambda 2 is unknown. So we can solve this by solving simultaneous equations. That's all is required. So solve it by simultaneous equations. So 15 minus 10, that becomes 5. So 0.8 lambda 1 plus 0.6 lambda 2 equals to 15 minus 10, which is 5. Then 1.5 lambda 1 plus 1.2 lambda 2 equals 20 minus 10 equal to 10. So solve by simultaneous equations. Okay, I hope you know how to calculate the simultaneous equations. We'll multiply it by respective coefficients to make it same. So here we have 0.8, 1.5. So multiplied by 1.5 multiplied by 0.8. So 0.8 into 1.5 becomes 1.2 lambda 1. 0.6 into 1.5, 0.9 lambda 2. 5 into 1.5, 7.5. 0.8 into 1.5, 1.5 lambda 1. 1.2 into 0.8, 0.96 lambda 2. 10 into 0.8, that is 8. Now coefficients are same, So subtract the equations minus, minus, minus. So this is 1.5 to 0.8, 1.2 you get, sorry, 1.2. So this will get cancelled. 0.9 minus 0.96 minus 0.06 lambda 2 is my 7.5 minus 0.8, 7.5 minus 8 minus 0.5. So minus minus gets cancelled basically. So lambda 2 is minus 0.5 divided by minus 0.06. Then you get 8.33 lambda 2. So factor premium for 2, factor 2. You can also do for factor 1. You can simply substitute. Let's quickly do for our reference. Substitute in this equation. 0.8 lambda 1 plus 0.6 into 8.33 lambda 2. That's what we calculated. Equals 5. So 0.8 lambda 1 plus 0.6 into 8.33. You get 4.98, let's say 5. So 0.8 lambda 1 equals 5 minus 5. So 0.8 lambda 1 is 0. Therefore 0.8 if you divide, it will be same. So lambda 1 equals 0. They have not asked for some 1, but if they asked, the answer would have been 0. So no impact actually. Everything is because of the factor 2 only. Okay, so this is one problem which you can expect in exam, maybe slightly complex. So quite a few things are there here. In the earlier question, expected value minus expect return, not GNP expected minus actual value. It's not GNP expected. The difference between the expected return based on GNP minus actual return based on GNP. It's a return percentage, return differential, not the value differential. Okay,